Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the third virtual Draper engagement series that we're hosting here this evening, July 14th. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Megan Langell. I'm a strategist with the public engagement team here at the RMWB. Thank you again for being here. It's our third time meeting virtually, which is really exciting. We did host an in-person engagement yesterday evening with other friends and colleagues of yours. So we're excited again to discuss items tonight. I did want to humbly acknowledge first that the land on which we live, learn, work, and play is Treaty 8 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Dene, and the unceded territory of the Métis. If we can do next slide, Dan. So tonight's agenda is all about engineering. When we met back in April, there was a lot of different municipal projects that we were discussing related to Draper. The last session after that in June was very much focused on the municipal development plan. And then we kept hearing loud and clear that there was additional projects to discuss related to engineering for the Draper community. So we heard loud and clear that flood mitigation was an item that we wanted to be discussed. The rural egress road was something that came up in the June engagement series, slope stability as well, and rural water and sewer services. So that's the agenda for this evening. There is going to be more so of an update versus presentations. And as we go through them, we will be open to conversation. I do notice that majority of participants, your microphones or cameras are disabled. So if you do want to speak, please feel free to raise your hand and we can take you off of that and get your comments or questions, or again, feel free to put it in the chat. We're more than happy to accommodate each of those ways of communicating to us. So in regards to our friends that are joining us from the RMWB tonight, we do have a great team here from the engineering department. We have Nasser as well as Malcolm, Mogus, and Joseph and Maureen. So thank you for being here, as well as public engagement, Nadia Powers joining us, as well as Daniel is in the back and working all the technology for us and supporting the presentation. I do want to note that this virtual open house is recorded for transparency purposes, and it will be put on Participate with Buffalo page in the following days that can be viewed and shared online. If you do have any questions or recommendations for topics for next engagement series, we would love to hear them. That's what's very much focused on these engagement series, is we want to talk about what Draper residents want to talk about. So if you do have a topic that is not on the agenda today, we would be more than happy to hear it and be able to add it to the next agenda for the next meeting. I did also want to note quickly before we get into the discussion is last night there was recommendation for an August meeting. We were going to originally come back in September after the summer months and provide another discussion, but it was requested for us to come back in August. So last night it was decided on that more informal engagement would be encouraged. So we're going to work on August 13th is going to be a date for more information will be coming up, but it's going to be a barbecue style, and we're going to be hosting it on the Draper Road under a tent. So it's going to be very casual, drive by as you can, coming home from work or leaving to go get groceries. August 13th is the date that we're going to be looking at doing that. So more information will come up at a later date about that, but we're excited to be coming back to the community in August. Again, if you do have a topic, we would be more than happy to hear what it should be. Next slide, Dan. So I'm just going to provide a brief update in regards to flood mitigation. This week on Tuesday, our Director of Communication and Engagement, Matthew Harrison, provided a very high-level update in regards to flood mitigation for the Draper community. But before I get to that, I did want to just speak very high level in regards to Reach 11 construction. There is, as we discussed the last engagement, there is now active a waterways detour for Draper residents to accommodate the Reach 11 construction. If you do have further questions of where that area would look like or more details, you can find that at rmwb.ca/constructions. We have received inquiries too in regards to the roads that are coming off around the construction area, and just wanted to make a note that those are specifically for the construction equipment that are going to be accessing the construction site. So it's not related to an egress road being built. It's purely and specifically for the equipment that's utilizing the flood mitigation construction to be able to gain access going back and forth from the site. So in regards to council updates, so this was provided this week. The verbal update was provided by our director. There is a link available at the rmwb.ca/council for the video if you'd like to view it. Next slide. So here's some highlights that was discussed. In December 2020, Council directed administration to determine a feasibility of a municipal grant program for lot-by-lot flood mitigation solutions for properties in Draper. Throughout 2020 and 2021, administration surveyed properties to help inform lot-specific flood mitigation options and assesses requirements for program eligibility. Administration wrote to Government of Alberta Departments of Municipal Affairs and Environment and Parks to understand if the RMWB will be able to secure funding for the Draper neighborhood. Next slide. So just for reference, in April 26, 2022, it was on council's meeting agenda to speak about flood mitigation, and that was where it was amended to remove a Draper flood mitigation update to the July 12th council meeting. So disaster recovery program, the DRP funding is not available for the Draper Road neighborhood as communicated by Municipal Affairs. So this has been requested by administration, and that is the information we have regarding the DRP. We are awaiting response from Alberta Environmental and Parks to see if there is opportunity that avenue. And of course, as always, administration will continue to seek a response from Environmental and Parks. So we're doing the further communications to work with Alberta Environmental and Parks to see if there is funding available for the Draper community for flood mitigation. I do want to note that we'll continue to update you as information becomes available. We do encourage you to monitor the council website and agenda items. After summer recess, we continue to encourage you to follow any agendas that are going to council. And we do provide updates quite regularly through the Participate with Buffalo page, participate.rmwb.ca/Draper. That's where you can find updated information. And we do have a subscriber page there. So if you can subscribe and provide your email, we'll be able to provide you updates regarding anything related to Draper projects, including flood mitigation. So we do encourage you to subscribe to that page if you prefer. You can provide your email in the chat here, or you can also email us at participate.rmwb.ca, and we would love to be able to add you to that page. So that's the update about flood mitigation. And before I flip it over to our engineering department here, I just wanted to offer the opportunity for residents, if anyone has questions regarding that update that was provided to council this past Tuesday. If you do have questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them. And you can either raise your hand or provide your question or comment in the chat. So I don't see any, so I'm going to invite Nasser to speak on our next subject, which I believe is the rural egress. So Dan, if we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Nasser, if you want to come on and give your update. Hi.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nasser Qureshi, Senior Manager, Engineering Department. And yeah, just it's very high level, but we are here to answer any question about. There were questions from the community about the rural egress road for Draper. So as shown here, so currently, yes, no plans for an egress road for Draper, but we are continuing to explore options and opportunities due to changing conditions. Projected populations have changed and impacts plans for infrastructure. Slope stability has changed landscape, impacts potential location and feasibility. So again, there was a perception that perhaps any ongoing studies ongoing or something, but no, there are no plans. So we have projects ongoing, so where we are just trying to explore options to just have a bit of part of that study. So to just explore these another egress road for Draper people. So next slide, please.
Sorry, Nasser, if I can ask
Sure,
a question.
please.
So I know there was some questions in regard to the egress road last night in regards to residents. So what type of opportunity would there be for the municipality to explore that?
Joseph, you are here. Joseph, could you please just give a quick update from the parks projects where they're just closing their RFP and we were exploring those options to have this a bit of more study part of that. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Joseph Zagaria, and I'm one of the project managers with engineering. Yeah, so Parks, or Public Works Department, is currently doing or planning to do a feasibility study for a trail from Draper, and I think it goes to Sapri Creek. So as part of that feasibility study, there is opportunity to explore option to develop it as a dual purpose or multi-purpose or multi-use trail, like it can also provide emergency egress. But that is an option that they can or we can explore. It's my understanding there will be more engagement. That project, as part of their feasibility study, they will be doing public engagement sessions, and at that point there is an opportunity to look into that option.
Thank you, Joseph. When we were doing our door-to-door visits in the community, it was something that had come up as well. So it's great to get that update to see if there's a possibility of exploring what that would look like. I think that's great news to the residents of Draper that there could be an opportunity for exploring that. So thank you for that update.
Yep, no problem.
I did also want to reference, it was indicated yesterday to us as well that the province currently has information on their website that the past opportunity for the egress road still shows that it is moving forward. That was brought to our attention, so we are working at communicating that back with the province. As Nasser had updated, there's no intent for that to move forward. So that was brought to our awareness last night, so we'll be working at communicating that with the province. Thanks, Joseph. And then before we get back to yourself, Nasser, for your updates, anyone on the call have any questions in regards to the rural egress road at all? Like I had said, it's more of an update, this engagement series session. So more than happy to have a conversation with any residents that have questions or comments that relate to the egress road. Okay, I'm seeing none. Nasser, I'll invite you to go ahead and talk to the next subject, which I believe is slope stability.
Thank you, Megan. Much appreciated. And thanks, Joseph. For slope stability, again, very high level. So region-wide, there are slope monitoring program is underway. This program includes Draper as well. Plans to install slope monitoring devices in various locations. And week of July 4, 2022, assessed Draper area to identify locations for devices. It's just a kind of very high level update. And late summer and early fall 2022, anticipate monitoring devices will be installed. So this is a basically 2-year program, and data will be assessed to determine plan for moving forward. Thank you. Megan, with your approval, if there is Malcolm is here, maybe I'll request Malcolm just a very high level. So just he's especially PM for this monitoring program for Draper as well. So maybe just he can just go over very high level. So just to explain in which area he's working and what he is doing.
That would be great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Nasser. So we have already started the program, and last week we were assessing most of the properties, and especially we started identifying those properties which are heavily damaged. So those properties we visited, and we walked on the slope, and we have come up. We have identified a few locations, and the consultant will start installing instruments from, as Nasser said, from August onwards. And then we will be going through a monitoring program, and we will be deciding what will be the next. After collecting a good set of data, we will analyze, and we will come up with solutions, what need to be done in the future.
Now, Malcolm, just for residents on the call this evening, is there any reasoning of the locations that are chosen for the instruments to be placed?
Yes. So the areas we mostly visited is that residents who had structural damage in their property. So that means damage to their house. So those people definitely will have instruments on their property if they agree to host them. So there won't be any interaction from us, because we are going to install automated instrument. So it will be automatically communicate the data to us.
Great, and this has already started. I believe there has been conversations already started in the community.
Yes, so those selected properties that we already communicated with the property owners, and we visited the properties.
Great. Thank you for that update, Malcolm. Does anyone on the call have a question in regards to slope stability? Okay, I'm seeing none. Thank you very much, Malcolm, for that update. Nasser, I did just have a comment that I wanted to provide to residents this evening. In regards to slope stability, there was some conversation with friends and neighbors last night in regards to ponds that are at the Rotary Golf Course and how that relates to slope stability. So full transparency, we continue to really try in both forums to communicate to each what is happening with the conversations that are happening with friends and neighbors. So I just wanted to provide that to residents tonight, and also to see the conversation that the municipality had with residents in regard to looking into that further.
Yes, Mega, and thanks. Yes, last night there was a bit of feedback from the community, and taking their feedback, we will plan internally so that it's very right time for, we are going for next year budget as well. We are preparing that, and we will see how we can integrate all these. There are few small pieces of all those issues there. So if we can just integrate them, and just we can have a bit of study done so that we can see where are those issues, because definitely there are drainage issues identified. Issues were identified that due to those ponds and due to those golf course, perhaps that may be the reason, or due to removal of trees, and with the new development that may be the reason. So this kind of feedback came last night, but again, we are just got feedback. We are working on internally to find a way and explore options how we can go and just a bit of start some kind of study. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for providing that update for that possibility of exploring further into that that area. Okay, let's go to our next slide. We're speeding through our updates. All right, Nasser, back over to rural water and sewer.
Okay, thank you so much. And as the first bullet shows, no plans for rural water sewer services. Basically, it was only the road improvements program, and there is no water and sewer servicing program at the moment for Draper. But we are working in Drapers on road pavements, drainage, ditching. Draper Road will be completed in 2022. I believe it's already done. Mogus is here. If needed, he can give an update. But second lift of asphalt is left, and I think within perhaps this month or next month that will be paved. Garden Lane, Riverbend close improvements moving forward. This project is also awarded, and contractor will be working on this project very shortly. I think maybe within weeks, so there will be kind of activity over there. So this is just a nutshell under this slide, and we are here. I think Mogus is here if there is any question about the Draper Road or the Garden Lane, but otherwise that's what I would like to say. Thanks.
Thanks, Nasser. I have a question for you, Mogus. Can you elaborate what the improvements would be for Garden Lane and Riverbend Close? I see your camera. Oh, there you go. Go ahead, Mogus.
Yeah. Yes.
No problem. Mogus, if you're having camera issues, you can turn off camera. But if you want to just speak a little louder, it's very quiet on your end.
Okay. Yeah. Draper Road, what we have is like, Garden Lane. We are upgrading the road. The existing road is not to the municipality standard. It's not wide, and it will be widened, and also it will be to the municipality rural road standards. It will be, the structure will be built in a better shape or condition. And also there is drainage issues in Garden Lane, and we are going to address that drainage issue as well.
Okay, and in regards to the Draper Road, I know that's far, almost near completion. What specifically is left for that to be prior to it being completed?
Draper Road, the remaining work will be second lift of asphalt. Almost we are done with, so far we are doing the ditching and also culvert work. It's almost close to complete. Then we'll be doing the second lift of asphalt and line painting, and we'll be done by the end of this season.
And is the second layer, is that throughout the entire length of Draper, or is it a specific area?
No, actually, this one is phase 2. Like when we did Draper, we have 2 phases. The first phase was done last year. It was completed. And a year before that, it was started and completed last year. And what we started is a second phase, which started last year, will be completed this year. Exactly, I find it difficult to tell you where it is. Like I for sure, residents, they know it. Like, yeah.
Thanks. I just thought to gain as much specifics as we could while we have you tonight on the line.
Yeah, thank you.
There is a question related to the Draper Road construction. Tina in the chat's asking, Mogus, will they be seeding the ditches? Would you be able to provide an answer to that?
Yes, yes, we'll be seeding. Actually, when they were working on the ditches, right now they put a topsoil then they'll be following with a seeding. Yeah, it will be seeded.
Okay, great. Thank you. And timeline on that? Do we have a timeline?
Yeah, well, weather permitting, actually, I'm anticipating to complete all the works in the coming 4 weeks.
Great. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Tina, if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them here. And thank you, Mogus, for that update. If you have any questions at all for the engineering team, definitely now is the time to have your questions. If it's a different subject than what is on our agenda today for engineering, that's perfectly fine. But if anybody has any comments or questions that are related to engineering, please feel free to provide them in the chat or raise your hand. Or if you have another question related, I know we've been focusing a lot on planning and development projects for the Draper community, but if you do have other questions that per se engineering couldn't answer, we'd be happy to hear them as well. It's, again, these are your sessions. We really want to hear what's important for you and to be able to have those discussions. So feel free to put that in the chat. So I'm going to see if Nadia is available. There is a question, Nadia. If you're not available to answer, you can also comment in the chat. There's a question just in regards to the DRP funding that Kim had asked prior to delaying a response to her. I thought maybe you could provide a response. It's in regards to the terms of DRP funding rejection. Would that have just been for remediation, funding after a flood occurrence, or would it be preventing mitigation efforts?
That's a great question. And we were questioned a little bit on this last night, because while we know that the request that the municipality had put forward for DRP assistance was rejected by municipal affairs, we also know that some of the people, or a couple of people that were in Draper last evening said, well, that's different information than they have been provided. So we have put the request in for support for flood mitigation efforts, and that is what had been rejected. Now, what I can tell you, was it Kim? I'm sorry, I'm just on my mobile device
yes,
here. Kim, what I can tell you is that there was a little bit of not great clarity around exactly what had been rejected and what that meant, because we do know that last year there were changes to the terms of DRP funding for individual homeowners to be able to apply for funding. And what we committed last night to Brandon, I believe it was that at our next session, we were going to have people there that will be able to really dig into exactly what the terms of DRP are. And as a matter of fact, Kim, we're also going to reach out to the province to see if there's anybody here with the province who can join us at the conversation in August for some more clarity on that. So the request had been for support for flood mitigation efforts. That is the request that was rejected, but we do want to bring some more clarity to that. So I hope that partially at least answers your question, and we will dig into that more when we all get together in August.
Thanks, Nadia. Really appreciate that. If we can get answers while we're on here, I'm all for it. So thank you for turning your camera on and answering that. And yes, Kim, it may not be a direct answer, but certainly I'm just putting our email in the chat. So feel free to reply to us maybe in the coming weeks if you still have that question, but definitely working on getting an answer for that. Okay, next slide. So that's all our updates for this evening, focused on engineering. What we do want to ask those of you that are on the call is, what would you like to hold the next, or when would you like to hold the next session? So we heard from friends and neighbors last evening that August was definitely of interest. So just really interested to hear your thoughts about that. Is that something you agree with? So if anybody has any thoughts about that, please feel free to put in the chat, raise your hand. I'm getting a little lonely on camera, so if anybody wants to come on camera, I'm more than happy to talk to you. But again, we're really trying to specifically focus these engagement approaches to ones that are appreciated and supported from Draper communities. Throughout public engagement, we keep hearing different communities like different tactics. So definitely interested to continue hearing your recommendations of how we can engage. Nadia?
Hi, Megan, I see that Tina has asked a question here. Will they be seeding the ditches? I believe that that's part of the road improvement work that's happening now. So I will ask Nasser if he or somebody on his team could take that question for Tina, please.
Yeah, when we were on, I believe it was the update in regards to the Draper Road. Yes, Mogus was able to confirm that, yeah, that the seating, no issues, the seating is going to be provided. And I asked him what a timeline was, and he even gave me 4 weeks from now. So
Thank you.
No worries.
I did mention I'm on my mobile device, and so the chat is coming in later after the fact. So I'm sorry about that.
No worries. And that's actually a good comment. The last virtual meeting, we had that issue with people accessing the chat while you're on mobile. So if you do put the hand raise feature on there, that is still on the bottom. That's how we can communicate with you. Thanks, Nadia. The other thing we're interested in too is, how often would you like us to hold these sessions? It could be dependent on what's going on with municipal projects, the season. We were doing monthly. We were thinking the summer months would be a little bit quiet, but we've been communicating with you quite a bit. So that's still great, but I'm really just interested. So if anybody has any thoughts, please provide it in the chat, or raise your hand or microphone, or in the chat. So what topics, again, would you like to talk about next session? So again, we're really open to your feedback. If there's anything specifically that we can discuss that's related to the Draper community. Next slide, Dan. Someone had just put in the chat, as often as meaningful information becomes available. That sounds perfectly great with us. We can meet with you as information becomes available. And if that's, quieter in the winter months and ramping up in the spring, definitely. Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, Nadia.
Hi, yes, thank you. And just to mention, and my apologies again if this might have already been covered this evening, but we already know that when we come back in August, we want to be able to hopefully talk more about the parks work, where they are looking at the feasibility of a multi-season or all-season trail along the rail bed. That's one. And what opportunity there might be. I heard Joseph mention what opportunity there might be to see about the feasibility of that as a secondary egress road, or an egress road, then I should say, for Draper as well. Last evening, Nasser talked about committing to a study to see about the water from ponds that are located on the golf course. And so we were going to come back and give a bit of a timeline on that and what that work might look like. We're also going to have more detailed conversation about flood mitigation, the DRP, the response, the request that went to the government of Alberta, and the response that we got back and what that means. So we already have a few things on the agenda for the next session. And Megan, I know I heard you let everybody know that people can reach out at any time. So if anything else comes up between now and August, certainly let us know. If people were following the council meeting on Tuesday evening, you would have seen that there is a requirement for us to come back. I believe it's at the second council meeting after the summer recess, for administration to come back with another update on Draper. And so we were thinking that it would be appropriate to have another meeting just after that council update, so that people certainly can come to the council update and ask their questions there, but then we would have another session then. So we already know that we're going to have a session in August, and again towards the end of September, early October, if that's okay with everybody.
Thanks, Nadia. The trail feasibility is certainly something that I know a lot of people in Draper are interested in. So we're really excited to getting those subject matter experts in the room with everyone and talking about the opportunity for that. So lots of things happening in Draper, which is just great. So we're near the end of our meeting, 36 minutes in, so that's perfectly great. If our meetings are quick with updates with this, but again, if anybody has any questions, we totally encourage you to provide your questions or comments in the chat. But I did want to just provide again our Draper information. So participate.rmwb.ca/Draper, as well as our email. And then of course, if you do have questions, you can always reach out to our Pulse line, the phone number, as well as the website, or excuse me, email, pulse@rmwb.ca is on the screen there. So that's our evening agenda for tonight. If anybody does have any questions, feel free to stay behind and we'd be happy to chat with you, have a discussion. I do have a question in the chat. I may have missed the first part of the meeting. Was the idea of a grant for property, specifically flood mitigation, talked about? Yes. So Dan, if you want to go back to the beginning slides about flood mitigation. Do one more. Okay, no, go back to the slide you are. Sorry. So sorry, I have TC as the name on here. So TC was the idea for a grant for property specific flood mitigation talked about. Yes, so the update was provided this past Tuesday to council, and the update was that administration wrote to the government of Alberta, departments of the municipal affairs and environmental and parks to understand if the RMWB could secure funding for the Draper community. And then Dan, if you go to the next slide. So currently, there is no funding available through the disaster recovery program. However, the municipality has provided communication and requests to Alberta Environmental and Parks to see if there's a grant program that way that can support the Draper community. So right now, administration is working on that request with Alberta Environmental Parks, and we're hopefully can provide updates as they become available. As Nadia had commented, there is going to be, there was a request through council, the administration follow up of what that conversation was later this fall. So if you are on our Participate subscription page at participate.rmwb.ca, /Draper, you can subscribe there, and every time there's a Draper subject on the agenda, we send an email notifying residents as well as what the agenda item is. So please feel free to go onto that page and subscribe, and we are able to communicate that with you. So hopefully that answers your question. It was a very high level update verbally that just communicated that unfortunately disaster recovery program isn't available for funding. However, we're working on if there's opportunity with Alberta Environmental and Parks. And Taylor, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions for us? Oh, okay, I see Taylor, you raised your hand. I'm just gonna make sure you have. Dan, are you able to activate the camera and microphone? Okay, Taylor, you can go ahead and unmute yourself now. Okay, let's just try this. Dan, are you able to unmute Taylor?
I have no access to unmute somebody.
Okay, so Taylor, you would have the capabilities of unmuting. If not, Dan, what we could do is if you want to make Taylor presenter, we would be able to get the microphone on.
There you go.
Or okay.
Hey guys, is
Hi.
my mic open?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. So in the event that Alberta Environment and Parks wouldn't be able to submit funding, would the RMWB cover that cost?
It's a great question. We don't know the answer to that yet of what the next steps will be. So first step is to see if the funding is available. And then after that, administration would advise council what the opportunities would be to support that flood mitigation. Does that answer your question?
Yep, it does. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
And we're working hard on being very transparent with that communications, that we can continue in being transparent of, you know, what the answer is we're being able to provide, that's going to be directed to council. So as soon as we have information available, we will definitely communicate that to residents and the public. Thanks for the question. Does anyone else have any other questions? And Dan, if you just want to go to that last slide, again, for everyone's reference, our information to get a hold of. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, we do really enjoy these conversations and the opportunity to speak with residents. It's very exciting that we're able to do in-persons, but the virtual meetings are great as well. So thank you for being here tonight. If you do have thoughts of what we could speak to in August, please let us know at any of those links that are on the page. And then look out for us August 13th. We'll provide more information of timing and whatnot, but that's a Saturday. Something that we had heard last night was residents had said, you know, weekends would work better for some people who work evenings, working shift. So we're going to try and be out there for a little bit of a longer stretch that we can try and be inclusive as possible and work with everybody's schedules. So August 13th we'll be back, and then depending on topics, September and October we'll be back to talk to you again. Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye.